Gentlemen, let me hit you with a truth you might not want to hear, but need to. She's still watching you. Quietly, from a distance. She's checking your stories, your posts, your updates. She might even ask her friends about you. But here's the confusing part. She doesn't text, she doesn't call, and she sure as hell doesn't reach out. You wonder why. Not because she doesn't care, but because she's waiting for something. Let's break this down. Here are 5 brutal but necessary truths about why she's watching, but staying silent. When a woman pulls back but continues to watch you silently, it's often because she's observing you through a different lens than before. She's not interested in small talk or casual updates. She's studying who you are now. Women remember the emotional imprint of who you were when you were close. That includes how you reacted under pressure, how you treated her, how you handled your life, your ambitions, and your confidence. So when she pulls away, she isn't necessarily closing the book. She's putting it on the shelf to see if the next chapter is worth reading. She wants to know if you've grown, or if you're still repeating the same habits. Are you still insecure and reactive? Are you still seeking external validation? Are you still unsure of who you are and what you want? If the answer is yes, she won't come back, because she doesn't want to revisit an old version of you that caused her doubt or pain. But if she sees strength where there was once weakness, calm where there was once emotional chaos, and purpose where there was once aimlessness, that changes things. Women are deeply intuitive and emotionally tuned in. They don't always need a conversation to figure out where you're at in life. They can feel it just by observing your actions, your demeanor, your consistency. That's why this silent watching period is so critical. It's not a test you know you're taking, but it's happening all the same. You're being observed, not for who you were, but for who you are now. The truth is, she may not even be sure what she wants yet. But one thing is certain. If you're stuck in the same patterns she walked away from, she'll keep watching, but never step forward. Growth is the only language she still understands. When a woman stays silent, but continues to observe you, it's often because she wants to protect her sense of power and avoid the sting of rejection. Even if she still has feelings, doubts, or lingering emotions, the fear of vulnerability can outweigh the desire to reconnect. Silence, for her, becomes a form of control. By not reaching out, she shields herself from potential hurt, while still keeping an emotional thread tied to you. Watching from a distance lets her feel like she's in charge, like she's the one choosing not to engage. Women often internalize emotional risk much more deeply than men realize. Reaching out and not getting the response they want can feel humiliating or even destabilizing. So instead of taking that gamble, they retreat into silence and surveillance. It's her way of saying, I'm still interested, but I need to feel safe. That silence is not about playing games. It's about guarding herself emotionally. This dynamic also taps into something deeper, validation. If she broke things off or drifted away and you chase her, it validates her sense of value and desirability. If you don't, it challenges her. She wonders if you've moved on, if you no longer care, if your silence means indifference. And ironically, that silence can sometimes make her think about you even more. But remember, her silence isn't always a cue for you to chase. It's a reflection of her inner conflict, wanting connection, but fearing rejection. If you chase just to soothe her fears, you lose your grounding. The key is to recognize this dynamic, respect her space, and focus on being centered. A man who doesn't panic in the face of her silence sends a powerful message, one that says he's not desperate, he's not shaken, and his self-worth doesn't hinge on her response. When a woman pulls away and goes silent, it's often because she's waiting to see if you'll be the one to reach out first. It's a silent test that many men fail, not because they do something wrong, but because they don't understand what's really happening beneath the surface. She's not always ignoring you to hurt you. Sometimes she's trying to find out how much she truly matters to you. Her silence becomes a question. Will he notice I'm gone? Will he care enough to come toward me? This isn't necessarily about ego or manipulation. For many women, emotional connection is deeply tied to feeling valued and pursued. When that connection breaks, she may be filled with uncertainty. She might want to reach out, but something in her holds back. It could be pride, fear, or even past experiences where she did the reaching out and got hurt. So now, she waits, hoping that you'll make the first move and reassure her that she's still important. But here's the danger. If you respond out of neediness or panic, it backfires. She doesn't want you to reach out just because you're scared to lose her. She wants it to come from a place of grounded strength, genuine care, and masculine clarity. She wants to feel chosen, not chased. There's a difference. If you do reach out, it should be calm, intentional, and confident, not reactive. And if you choose not to, make sure it's not from ego, but from self-respect and clarity. Because sometimes the greatest message you can send is not a text, but the example of a man who lives with purpose regardless of who checks in or walks away. Either way, her silence is a space that reveals your true strength or exposes your insecurity. Choose wisely. When a woman distances herself and chooses silence, she's often using that space to evaluate her own growth, and she's measuring you against it. Women evolve emotionally, sometimes faster than men, especially after a breakup or a period of conflict. While you're dealing with the void or trying to make sense of her absence, she might be diving into self-work, rediscovering her identity, setting boundaries, or building her confidence. That silence is her processing phase. And during it, she's quietly comparing who you were to who she is becoming. She's asking herself if the version of you she knew can align with the new standards she's creating for herself. Maybe you were a strong part of her past, but if you're not evolving too, she might feel like you've been left behind. And she won't always say that directly, because she doesn't want to be the one to define your journey. Instead, she observes. She watches from a distance to see if you're becoming a man who can meet her where she is now. It's not just about appearances or status. It's about emotional depth, consistency, maturity, and vision. If she sees you complaining online, chasing validation, or stuck in the same habits that made her walk away, her silence only grows. But if she sees strength, purpose, a quiet confidence, and a life that's expanding without her, she feels the shift. That's when she might begin to question her silence. In this phase, the worst thing you can do is cling to the version of yourself she left. The best thing you can do is use her silence as fuel for growth. Not for her, but for you. Because whether she comes back or not, the man you become during her silence will attract the kind of woman and life you truly deserve. Her silence becomes deafening the moment you stop reacting to it. When you no longer text to check in, when you stop posting things just to catch her attention, when you no longer wait by your phone hoping for a message, that's when it hits her. Not because you've played a game, but because your energy has truly shifted. There's a moment when she realizes your world has moved on, and she's no longer at the center of it. That moment is powerful, and it changes everything. Most men make the mistake of constantly trying to do something in the silence. They text, call, ask mutual friends, or post subtle hints online. But all of that shows her she still has emotional control. It shows you haven't let go. What truly catches her attention is when your silence is no longer a reaction, but a choice. When it's not coming from pain, but from peace. That's the moment she starts to feel the loss. Because now, your absence has weight. It isn't just space. It's silence, backed by strength. She begins to wonder what you're doing, who you're becoming, and whether you've stopped caring. And ironically, that's often when she starts to care again. Not because she wants to control you, but because true detachment from you forces her to confront the reality of your separation. This is why emotional self-control is so important. When you don't flinch, don't chase, and don't crumble under the weight of being ignored, you show her and yourself that you are complete without external validation. That kind of strength is rare, and it's felt deeply. It's the moment when your silence says more than words ever could. And it's the moment when she just might miss you more than she expected. Fellas, her silence isn't always indifference. Sometimes it's confusion, protection, or unspoken hope. But don't chase validation in her silence. Focus on growth. When you become the man you were meant to be, her silence, whether it breaks or not, won't define you.